But I really am excited to speak, and this pulpit, really, I was thinking about that, and I really had some concerns as we were figuring out what to do with a pulpit for our church. When it became apparent that we needed one, the first thing that we did is we looked online for some different options, and as we looked, we were kind of disappointed in the options. Some were cold and sterile, very metallic and just not what we wanted. Others looked like they belonged on a 17th century sailing ship right at the front, the bulkhead, and it wasn't. And so we had the idea of asking a couple of craftsmen from our church to design and build a pulpit for us, something that would reflect the priority of God's Word, something that would be beautiful, but somewhat simple. And we selected a couple of craftsmen, and here is the part where I got nervous. They'd never built a pulpit before. There's not a lot of, it's probably not a great business model to have. And so I had a certain degree of nervousness as entrusting this project to some people. And so what did we do? Well, what we did is we looked at some things that these craftsmen had made. And as we looked at things that they had made, we could see their knowledge of wood and woodworking, different types of wood, and then how to treat it and use it and fashion it, shape it. We saw their attention to detail and even an element of perfectionism that would make things nice. And then we saw the design that they put into it and the purpose and the intentionality of it. And eventually we said, you know what, based on these things, I think that we could do this with folks from our church. And here is the result before us. Is it beautiful? It is. In a similar way, God has revealed himself to us in a way that is discussed in Romans chapter 1, verse 20, which says, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made." Romans tells us that we can learn things about God, about his power, and not just his power, but also his nature from what he has made. Now, I have been taught that truth all my life, and as I have traveled, as I see the beauty of the world that God has made, I've acknowledged it is true, but one of the questions I have is, what exactly can we learn about God from what he has made? I think, to be honest, we've all experienced the beauty of nature in the woods or along a river or in a sunset. But what are the invisible qualities? I know that sometimes when I observe nature, I say, hey, God is awesome. He loves beauty. But is there anything more than that? And that brings us to Psalm 104. In Psalm 104, an ancient poet, I think, mused on these same questions. It was a long time ago, but it was the same creation that he observed. And in Psalm number 104, he ruminates on the wonders of creation and discovers 5 distinct things that nature tells us about God. Things that I would say are in a way hidden in plain sight. Something that is readily observable by all, but it is not until we reflect on what they teach us that we learn some very significant things about the nature of our God. And this morning I'd like to look at these 5 things from Psalm 104. It's a long psalm, and I don't know if anyone else has the problems I have with psalms and poetry in general. When I read poetry, my mind wanders. Are there any mind-wandering folks who the imagery and the pictures, it kind of just blends together and I get a little bit lost? And so we're gonna consider each one of those in some shorter chunks. But I would encourage you as you read this, you'll see these distinct things that the psalmist says we learn about God. The first is in verses 1 through 4. Psalm 104 says, "Praise the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, you are very great. You are clothed with splendor and majesty. He wraps himself in light as with a garment. He stretches out the heavens like a tent. He lays the beams of his upper chambers on their waters. He makes the clouds his chariot and rides on the wings of the wind. He makes winds his messengers and flames of fire his servants. And these first two Psalms, these first set of verses, the psalmist says that the heavens declare some truths about who God is. They speak, as it was, and the heavens say that God is majestic. It's possible that the psalmist is reflecting on day 1 or 2 of creation, the creation of light and darkness, and the sky. His emphasis on the things above us, the heavens. He says he uses the imagery of God dresses himself in light, and that he also builds his house, his home, his chamber on their waters. And all of this underscores the majesty of who God is. I think we understand the majesty of nature, maybe in seeing the Grand Canyon or the ocean, or maybe even the Wind River Indian Reservation. This is where our teens were these last few weeks. And actually most of the pictures that I have in the slides are all from that trip today. The idea of majesty is impressive stateliness, dignity, or beauty. And when you experience something that is majestic, it makes us feel small because it is grander and greater and beyond. There are elements of beauty, of grandeur, of power in this. And what the psalmist says is, when I see the sky, the heavens, they declare to me that the one who made these, who laid them out, who stretched them out, he is rich in majesty and splendor. He is beyond. He's a little bit like Solomon after building the temple, who said, we have built this magnificent temple covered in gold, and as beautiful it is, it cannot contain our God. I can imagine the psalmist himself saying, God is wrapped in light and the majesty of the heavens, of space and all that we observe, and the sky, the clouds, the winds, and all of this. There is something bigger and greater than us, and it does not contain him. Nothing contains him. We learn that God is majestic. You know, we like to be impressed, or maybe we are easily impressed. Maybe, how many people get impressed by cars that they see on the road sometimes? And it's always just like envious of a new truck, maybe it is. I know TV is full of shows of home improvements or homes of those who are wealthy. And we're very impressed with the majesty of them. When we do those, we realize there's something bigger and greater. It is impressive than us. It makes us feel smaller. And to be honest, there is something good and right when that happens with regard to God, because it teaches us that we are not the center of the universe. God's majesty reminds us of our place, that we are not at the center of the universe. You know, I was reading recently of a new term. It's not really a psychological diagnosis yet, but it's called main character syndrome. Have you ever heard of main character syndrome? It's a person's tendency to view themselves as the central and most important character in their own life and in the lives of others. It's that second part that makes it significant. It's the person who acts like they are the star of the show, and you and everyone else are kind of a supporting character in their story. It has features of self-centeredness, need for attention, sometimes lack of empathy. But it's the person who wonders, why have you not oriented your life around their needs? Why have you not anticipated what their desires are? Why have you not made their desires the most important thing that you meet? I think we're all infected with a degree of main character syndrome, and we need to be made smaller. God gives us the heavens to teach us that we live in his universe, not him in ours. God is majestic. He is beyond. We are a character. We are significant because he did make us, because he sent his son for us. But it is still his universe, and he is bigger and greater and beyond. The heavens remind us that God is majestic. When we look at what he has made, we learn of his majesty. Secondly, verses 5 through 9 say, God sets the earth on its foundations, and it can never be moved. You covered it with a deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains, but at your rebuke the waters fled. At the sound of your thunder they took to flight. They flowed over the mountains. They went down into the valleys to the place you assigned for them. You set a boundary they cannot cross. Never again will they cover the earth. Secondly, the psalmist says, the earth and the sea tell us something about God. There's some dispute of what exactly the psalmist is referring to. How many of you, when you read that, you said, this sounds like creation, that third day of creation when God causes the land to come up out of the sea and sets its boundaries? Some people do see it as evidence of talking about that third day of creation, while others see a vision of the flood, the waters receding after God's judgment. I tend to think this latter one from verse 9, especially when it says, you set a boundary they cannot cross. Never again will they cover the earth. The promise that God made, that the earth would not be destroyed by water. The psalm is about setting boundaries, that God, in his creation, he tells the mountains and the waters where to be. He sets their limits. He is the authority. Now, there's an interesting thing about authority. Some authority seems to be based on power. That power is very connected to authority. And in a sense, we could say God is powerful, and so is his authority solely rooted in the fact that he is stronger, that he is bigger, that he is greater, that he can do things that we cannot. If God's authority were solely based on power, the reality is that would make him similar to a bully. A bully has power. A bully asserts his will, but we would never say a bully has legitimate authority. A legitimate authority refers to the rightful power or power that is recognized and accepted by others. This type of authority is typically based on a shared understanding of the source of the power and its appropriate application. The heavens say that God does have power, but his power is rooted in his authority as creator, the maker of all that is. He is over the sea and the mountains. He has legitimate authority because he is the one who made him. This is why elsewhere in Scripture, in Jeremiah 18, in Romans 9, the picture that the writers use is that of a potter and a clay. And when people want to say, what right does God have to do this, or to allow this, or to make this happen in my life? The Scripture says, you know what? He is the potter. He is the one who makes things. The clay does not have the right to say, this is not how I want to be made. I ought to be something different. The potter, there's a fundamental difference between the potter and the clay, between the creator and that which he has created. This is a difficult lesson, and one that our culture struggles with. Man in his wisdom says everything is malleable, everything is changeable, everything is negotiable. I can build my life on the sand of my own wisdom, and it's all going to turn out all right. I can be whatever gender I want. It's my choice. How I'm created has little to do about it. But the reality is there is a fundamental difference between creator and created things. And the creator does set the boundaries, the patterns for what we can be and what we will do. And our wish and our will does not make it so. As I was pondering this, I read a news article about the submarine disaster that happened in June of 2023. The final report. If you remember, a billionaire wanted to create a submarine that would visit the Titanic and could take others down to it. And so he wanted to totally redesign what a submarine would be. And unfortunately, as it dove and dove, we lost contact with it. We wondered for a few days or weeks before it was confirmed that the Titan submarine imploded upon itself and everyone in it was killed. For the last 2 years, they've been studying what was the cause of this. And the conclusion was that it was caused by a flawed design and inadequate safety protocols. And the real cause, though, is they said that the company that made it and the man who was the head of that company created a false sense of safety. He pressured people to deny things that would say, hey, this is not going well. That test showed some weaknesses, some critical systems failures. He silenced those who would disagree with him because he wanted so bad to accomplish something. He wanted it so badly that he thought he could shape reality to the way he would like it to be. But the reality is, when the pressure came, there were consequences. He bore those consequences because he was on the submarine. Perhaps there's a certain integrity in that. But also 4 other people lost their lives at the same time. He could not design his own reality. It was not his own world to make it submit to him. God is the authority, and the consequences are paid by others. Nature teaches us that God is majestic. It teaches us that God has authority, a legitimate authority that resides in him. Well, you might be saying, man, this is kind of intimidating, what nature teaches us about God. And perhaps that is your experience when you are traveling on vacation, or maybe will yet this summer. You see the beautiful things that God has made, and you say, he's great, he's powerful. But the question is, does he really care? Does he care? Is he an awesome and distant God, full of authority and splendor and majesty, but disconnected from our lives, from our needs? That is why I'm so glad that the psalmist does not stop there. In verses 10 through 18, he gives the testimony of the rivers and the streams. He says, he makes springs pour water into the ravines. It flows between the mountains. They give water to all the beasts of the field. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. The birds of the air nest by the waters. They sing among the branches. He waters the mountains from his upper chambers. The earth is satisfied by the fruit of his work. He makes grass grow for the cattle and plants for man to cultivate, bringing forth food from the earth, wine that gladdens the heart of man, and oil to make his face shine, and bread that sustains his heart. The trees of the Lord are well watered, the cedars of Lebanon that he planted. There the birds make their nests. The stork has its home in the pine trees. The high mountains belong to the wild goats, and the crags are a refuge to the conies. The rivers and the stream tell us that God provides. The emphasis of this is the way God provides water for beasts and birds, for mountains, for cattle and crops. It reminds us that God, in his design, created a system that sustains itself beautifully and wonderfully in ways that the psalmist understood in part, and which science helps us to understand more fully. There's a self-sustaining system in which God provides water and all the needs of all that he has made. It is fundamental to his nature that he provides. We see that in what he has made. He does not always supply what I want when I want, but he provides for the whole person, not just our immediate needs. He is not a God who abandons, neglects, or forgets. It is his nature to provide for what he has made. Jesus builds on this in Luke chapter 12. When Jesus says to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. Consider the ravens, they do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable you are than birds. Who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life? Since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest?" The rivers and streams say God provides. What is your worry today? Is it financial? Is it health? Is it the future? Is it like me that really it's 7 different things that your mind bounces from one to the other to the other? What will happen? What will be? How can I be ready for what is yet to come? The rivers and streams say, can't you see what God is like? He's a God who provides for each and everything that he has made. He has been faithful. He has been faithful in the past. He'll be faithful in the future because he is faithful. Will you trust him? The rivers and the streams tell us that God provides. Moving on to verses 19 through 23. The psalmist says, goes back to the heavens, and he says, the moon marks off the seasons, and the sun knows when to go down. You bring darkness, and it becomes night, and all the beasts of the forest prowl. The lions roar for their prey, and they seek their food from God. But then the sun rises, and they steal away. They return and lie down in their dens. Then man goes out to his work, to his labor until evening. The psalmist begins describing the moon, and that may seem backwards. Usually the sun gets star billing for us. But he begins with the moon marking off the seasons because in the Jewish calendar, it was based on a lunar calendar. It is the reason why our celebration of Easter and Passover that precedes it moves through the course of the spring with the moon. And the Jewish feasts were based on this lunar calendar. And so the psalmist, in describing this, says the moon is what marks off the seasons. And the sun also is part of this pattern that God sets. Patterns of light and darkness, hunting and rest, work and sleep. The moon and the sun remind us that God is order. He gives order to what he has made. Order is the arrangement or disposition of people or things in relation to each other. That there's a sequence, a pattern, or a method. The moon and the sun remind us that God sets patterns everywhere. The order of creation, of seasons, of Sabbath rest. The psalmist describes it, the simple order of light and darkness and the effect that it has on animals, their hunting habits, and on people when they work and when they rest. His emphasis is that God has set patterns and purpose and order in what he has made because he is order. It's why in 1 Corinthians 14, in talking about tongues and worship, Paul can say with confidence, our God is not a God of disorder, he is a God of order. He accomplishes things. The world is not chaos just because it is not controlled by me. I was reminded of this of a book I was reading recently called Believe. Believe, that the purpose of the book was to explain why every person ought to have faith. It was written by a New York Times columnist, maybe the last person that I might suspect to write such a book. But in it, he made a very interesting point. He says that modernity used to believe that belief in the supernatural would fade away as science explained more and more of reality and how things work. The belief was that ancient people, because they didn't understand the sun and the path of the sun and the orbit around the Earth's orbit around the sun, didn't understand how nature worked. As science explained more and more, our need of God would decrease. There'd be no more mystery, and so no more need for God as an explanation. Well, the interesting thing has happened. Actually, 2 things that have happened as science learns more and more. First of all, it does find that there's an underlying order to creation that was not previously understood. It is true that science explains so much, that our advances in technology and understanding of the natural world are so much greater than it was when the psalmist did. But in that finding that there is order that gives evidence that there is a creator that creates order. Illustration that he uses, he said, if you had a simple watch, and you took a gun and you shot it, how many times would you have to shoot a watch before it would spontaneously reassemble into a more complicated and better watch. A year? No. 100 years? No. A million years? A billion years? Would order ever proceed from chaos and chance and disorder? And the reality is that it does not. We find order in creation that reveals that there is a creator who had a plan, the placement of the earth and its distance from the sun, precisely the right temperature that's compatible for human life on earth. The unique properties of light from the sun and the way that it operates to both give heat and light and enable our lives. There's always underlying order that science continually finds that reveal the existence of a creator who has given order. People with wills and purpose give order. Chance does not. Science does learn that there's underlying order, but it also finds, as it delves deeper and deeper into understanding, new mysteries. Many of those mysteries, the foremost scientists of our day, would happen in the realm of the very, very small, quantum mechanics. Things that we still do not understand. The idea that we would progress to the point that there are no more mysteries and every question is answered is simply not true. That science, as it goes deeper, finds new mysteries that are beyond, that are both signs of order, but also prove that the natural order cannot explain all that it is. There's something that we learn from the God of order. When things seem chaotic, it often means that there is an underlying order that we just do not understand yet. When my life is chaotic, it seems outside of my control, that circumstances kind of cascade down like a waterfall, and I realize that I am not in control. I can't dictate what is happening, and my response to it sometimes seems adequate. Out of that chaos, there is an opportunity for faith, to trust what the moon and the sun say, that God does give order. He is accomplishing purpose. When I look at nature, I learn something about God, but it's not just something that is out there in nature. It is something that it is deeply personal. That the order of this universe helps me to trust in the one who ordered it, and to believe it even in the chaos of my life. The moon and the sun say God is order. Number 5, verse 24, back to Psalm 104. It says, "How many are your works, O Lord? In wisdom you made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. There is the sea, vast and spacious, teeming with creatures beyond number, living things both large and small. There the ships go to and fro, and the Leviathan, which you formed to frolic there. These all look to you to give them their food at the proper time. When you give it to them, they gather it up. When you open your hand, they are satisfied with good things, and when you hide your face, they are terrified. When you take away their breath, they die and return to the dust. And when you send your spirit, they are created, and you renew the face of the earth." Lastly, the psalmist says, "The sea and its creatures reveal God's wisdom and sustaining power." In the ancient world, especially in Israel, the sea was a mysterious place. While the creatures that live on the land you could readily observe, what's hidden under the sea was always mysterious. It was always viewed as a place of chaos that is beyond our control, that's dangerous to go out on, especially for an ancient Jew. And rather than cause the psalmist to lose faith, what he acknowledges in Psalm 104 is that in God's wisdom, he made all the creatures. Even those in the sea. It's vast and spacious. It's teeming. It's creatures beyond number. We don't understand it. The mystery of the ship on a sea from a people who were not known for their seafaring abilities. All of these are part of God's plan and reveal his wisdom in providing even for these creatures. He sustains them. He gives them in food in ways that the psalmist did not understand. It reminds me of Colossians 1, 16 and 17, which says, "For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. Whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together." The psalmist says, all things, even those things that are beyond me, that I don't truly understand, they reveal God's wisdom, his ability to sustain, that it is beyond. What is, I would say, increasingly apparent to me is that while I have a device in my pocket, my phone, that promises access to almost all the information that is available in the world, that Google can tell me. I often say, Google knows. Why are we arguing about this? Google knows the answer to this question. We can find an answer to it. All of this information, all of this knowledge is available. My ability to understand it, retain it, or master it is incredibly limited. I can't become an expert in things, even though all of that information is available. It is vast, it is beyond. The psalmist did not have access to this, but he said, God is wisdom. The world is beyond me, my ability to understand, to control, to dictate. But God can. He made it all. He made it in a way that sustains itself in beautiful ways, majestic and orderly ways. But he is the creator from which it comes, and he sustains them in his wisdom. The psalmist says, in wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. God is majestic. God is authority. God by his nature provides, and he is orderly. Nature tells us that he is wise, and he sustains what he has made. And this psalmist ends by saying there's a response. There's a response that Romans 1 calls us to. A response that says that God has revealed qualities about himself. They are knowable by all. When we observe what has been made, we can discern things about the one who has made them. And there are two categories of response. The psalmist, he says, may the glory of the Lord endure forever. May the Lord rejoice in his works. He who looks at the earth and it trembles, who touches the mountains and they smoke. I will sing to the Lord all my life. I will sing praise to my God as long as I live. May my meditation be pleasing to him as I rejoice in the Lord. Response number one to what God has revealed about himself in what he has made is to sing and to seek to please him. And seeing a God who is majestic and beyond us, who has authority over what has made, the authority of a creator, who is good in the way that he provides, who is orderly, confirming that he is existence and he is enabling and working out his plan, that he is wise and he sustains. We ought to sing his praise. We ought to seek to please him. When you observe the beauty of what God has made, I hope that you see his majesty, his provision, his order, his authority, his wisdom, and his sustaining power. And I hope the response is that our thoughts and our words and our action would desire to please him. But there's another response that the psalmist adds. That, to be honest, when I first read the psalm, it seemed somewhat out of place. This positive psalm about the goodness and the glory of God and what he has made, the psalmist ends by saying, but may sinners vanish from the earth and the wicked be no more. Praise the Lord, O my soul, praise the Lord. The psalmist acknowledged that there's another response. There are those who will not recognize God's invisible qualities, his divine nature, and they will not respond. He describes them as sinners and wicked. And in this psalm, in part, I do think there's a statement of appropriate judgment on those who who do not recognize God, who do not reach out to him based on what they can see and observe from nature, who do not seek him. But as I was pondering this, I realized there really are two ways to make sinners vanish from the earth and the wicked be no more. One way is the path of judgment. It is possible and that this is referring primarily and perhaps only to judgment. But it is also possible there's another way for sinners or the wicked to be no more. And that is for them to turn to God, to trust him, to put their faith in him. And in doing, sinners become redeemed. They become forgiven. They become God's child. They become worshipers of the one who has made them. God gives testimony in what he has made, testimony that we can receive. You know, as I conclude, I was reminded of a friend of mine. I'd like to tell the story of a friend of mine. Many years ago, after finishing college, he moved to China for 2 years in order to teach English. That was the ostensible purpose of his travel, but it was also to use as a means to spread the gospel in the teaching English in China. And when he did it, and as he would teach English lessons, and then he would sometimes use the Bible as a text for them to learn English, he would have students who would love to discuss his beliefs and what he thought, and it was a great opportunity. And one particular student of his loved to debate about the existence of God and about his religious beliefs. And they would go round and round in circles. My friend trying to prove that God is, that he is real and he exists, that he is worthy of worship, that we need to respond to him. And but it really seemed to be going nowhere. This person always had an answer to everything that he said. Until one day, my friend was doing his devotions in Romans chapter 1. And as he was reading Romans 1, I realized what Romans said is that there is a witness to God observable by every person, and that every person knows in their heart of hearts that God is real. And it is only by repressing that truth that they can deny what in reality they know. And he was meditating on that, and he said, well, if that is true, that means that this person who I debate with, he knows that there is God. And he said, you know what, I need to try something different. So the next time that he had opportunity to discuss with his student and friend about God, instead of arguing about cause and effect and first causes or a moral argument for God, instead he just said, now you know that there is a God who has made all things. And he said his student looked at him with a sheepish grin and said, well, yes. Of course I know that. It is obvious to all. I just like to debate you about these things. His friend started the most productive conversation that he ever had. That belief did not make him a believer in God, but it did recognize that he acknowledged that there is a truth that can be known by any and all through what God has made. That the God who creates with such majesty, who has authority over all, who provides in his goodness, is orderly in his design, and wise in sustaining his work of worship, has hidden in plain sight who he is. And all of us can see it.